everybody, today I'm counting down my top 10 worst movies of 2019. This list was hard to compile, surprisingly. Usually I only include films that received Kill It With Fire ratings from me, but there weren't many of those last year, which is good for films in general, not so good for list making. I see a lot of people saying how people who do worst lists are just promoting negativity. Forgive me, but I think that's a load of crap. Based on that logic, no one should ever post a review that's negative, because wouldn't that be giving into negativity? Anyway, I do them because I will take any opportunity to talk about films, whether good or bad. I love it. I also love seeing how much lists differ from person to person. What one person hates, another person loves, and vice versa. But it's really nice to show that there is more than one way to view films. Sometimes the most critically acclaimed films show up on someone's worst list, and that's okay. A lot of films that end up on my list people haven't even heard of, so at least I'm introducing these titles to people and they can check them out for themselves. Now, I'll be honest, most of the films on this list are horror films. This is because 2/3 of the films I watch every year are from the horror genre. Seriously, I watched over 200 horror films last year alone, so statistically a large amount from that genre will appear on this list. But now that you know that, time to actually reveal the list. At number 10 is Dark Phoenix, also known as X-Men Dark Phoenix. This film sees the X-Men face the full power of the Phoenix after a mission in space goes wrong. It just seemed everywhere I turned, the script appeared to be an inconsistent mess, and one that did such a disservice to these fantastic characters, especially my girl Storm. My favorite comic character, an Omega level mutant, and she got her ass kicked by a dude with super strong plats. What the fuck? This film on numerous occasions tries to push a men versus women narrative, and it was cringeworthy. I liked aspects of the film and even had some scenes I enjoyed, but overall I can't get over what a colossal mess this was. God-awful strip that doesn't make a lick of sense, with some very poor performances from most, if not all, of the cast. Number 9 is Pet Sematary, the second adaptation of Stephen King's 1983 novel of the same name that follows a family that discovers a mysterious graveyard in the woods behind their new home. Mostly I was bored by this. For me, it's another example of a remake fail. It tries to be darker and scarier than the original, which it obviously is, but in doing so, there's no soul. The theme or central focus of the original story is gone. In the original, I could see a film about grief and acceptance and how those who can't come to terms with it, it eats away at them. With the remake, I don't get any of that. This film made me feel nothing but boredom. The changes made are completely unnecessary. In regards to a certain injury sustained by Judd, the film gives a nod to it, but doesn't follow through as that would be too expected. Instead, it includes the same injury, but in a new way, so it's more unexpected. This was effective and well thought out, and was the only moment in the film that I enjoyed. And it lasted for like 2 minutes. That's disappointing. Number 8 is Annabelle Comes Home, the 7th installment in the Conjuring universe. While babysitting the daughter of Ed and Lorraine Warren, a teenager and her friend unknowingly awaken an evil spirit trapped in a doll. Oh boy, this movie. They made Judy older when she should be younger, they depicted items and cases that had not even happened yet, and the story is more about everything in the Warrens' house going nuts than it is about Annabelle. I think it did have some good moments and the performances are really good, and minus a few hiccups, the directing is excellent. But when I see so many errors and plot holes and I see a universe fall apart before my very eyes, no amount of positivity can make that okay. Daniela got possessed in all of 2 seconds, and it wasn't even by the entity that is trying to possess someone, and she got exorcised just as quick. If things happened that fast, there would be no point to the other films. The more I think about this film, the madder I become. I want Doberman to stop writing the scripts to these films. He has done so much damage to them that can't be repaired. And he has taken the stories so far into the realm of fiction that they are losing what made them good, and that was the realism they brought to the genre. Without them, they're just dull ghost stories that make no sense. Number 7 is Hoax. It follows an investigative team that travels deep into the remote Colorado wilderness after a group of young campers are viciously murdered by what may be Bigfoot. Absolute snooze fest, and just bad to boot. I'd have been better off watching Harry and the Hendersons. The characters are awful, and one of them is played by an actor I actually love. One minute you think you're watching a crappy horror film about Bigfoot, next thing you know you're seeing someone trying to fend off hillbillies living in the woods. I zoned out and was convinced I was watching a completely different film. It's just bad. Number 6 is Hellboy, a reboot of the Hellboy film series that serves as the third live-action film in the franchise. The film finds Hellboy caught between the worlds of the supernatural and human as he battles an ancient sorceress bent on revenge. This film and all its unholy glory can be summed up by one word: unnecessary. Aside from the character of Alice, I have nothing good to say about this film. The script, costumes, CGI, cinematography, performances, score, soundtrack, hell, even the film's timeline. Everything was an absolute disaster, as if this film was an apocalyptic event all on its own. When this film came out, I heard nothing but negative feelings towards it, so much negativity that I believed I would have the opposite response and end up loving it, because that's kind of how things work with me. As it turns out, I predicted that entirely wrong. This was far worse than anyone described. Number 5 is #FollowMe. 3 British women from London, consisting of a YouTuber and her 2 friends, go missing from a motel in California while traveling from Los Angeles to San Francisco after posting on social media using the #FollowMe. 1 hour and 8 minutes. Nothing of interest or value happens for a full 1 hour and 8 minutes, and this film only goes for 1 hour and 28 minutes, and 5 of those are credits. 1 hour of 3 of the most obnoxious women I've ever seen saying babe every 5 seconds, drinking, doing drugs, talking about screwing, and screwing random guys. That's not a film, that's just nothing. There's only anything in the last 10 minutes, and it's a good 10 minutes. But to wait all that time and that's all I get wasn't worth it. Might as well have been a short film. This is the kind of found footage film I hate. This is why I have issues with the genre. I get the vlogging stuff, but why are you recording while your friends fight? You turn the camera off. Why are you recording when a friend wakes you up and really you're about to die, so you put sad music on? Seriously? Yeah, let's set the mood and perform for the camera. Just an absolute waste of time. Performances are admittedly good though. Number 4 is Havana Darkness. 3 friends are thrust into a terrifying game of cat and mouse when they find themselves trapped inside an abandoned building nestled in the center of the country's vibrant capital. Absolutely god awful. I don't even think this film knows what it wants to be. The opening scene looked promising, but then we spend half an hour listening to someone talk about Hemingway, and then suddenly out of nowhere we are in a building where people are trapped and being hunted in a very slow, drawn out and poorly acted manner. Some pretty poor editing in this film to top it off. This was so boring that at one point I stopped watching and went and cooked butter chicken. The butter chicken was very yummy, thank you for asking. This film has maybe 5 endings, I lost count. It fades to black several times, and each time you think the film has ended, but nope, there's yet another pointless scene. Think escape room, but in Cuba and with a theme about Hemingway. Yeah, yeah, I think that's a pretty safe description. Number 3 is the Banana Splits movie. A family attending a live taping of the Banana Splits television series and trying to survive when their titular characters go haywire upon learning of their show's cancellation, starting a killing spree around the studio. I think Danishka Esterhazy is a terrific director. I recently watched her 2018 film Level 16 and loved it. Thought it was a brilliant piece of work that showcased both her writing and directing skills. This film is a whole other kettle of fish. Esterhazy excels at thrillers, so I do believe had our killers in this film been human, she could have done a lot more with the film. I'm surprised critics praise this so highly, but that's how movies work. For me, however, all I can say is that this film is senseless, mindless, boring garbage that was predictable in every way, shape, and form, and had me so bored I nearly fell asleep. In any other situation, I might have been rooting for everyone to die the whole time, and while I thought it briefly, I honestly didn't care. I was just happy when it was finally over. Number 2 is Hell of a Night. After moving to a new town, a young college student retreats to the country for a weekend of solace when she quickly finds out that she is not alone and needs to fend for her life. Oh, yikes. I mean, I've seen many low-budget independent films that have wowed me, and this wowed me alright. It wowed me by how truly awful it was. This felt like a media class project from 9th grade. The script, if there even was one, was atrocious. It was as though 3 people wrote different scripts and cut and pasted scenes together to make one script, as it's as though there are 3 different stories and they all suck. There's supernatural that doesn't feel supernatural, and revenge that doesn't feel like revenge, nor should it even be there. The opening scene barely connects with the rest of the film and is just another offensive and idiotic depiction of Ouija. Most of the actors can barely deliver a line, and all of them deliver their lines in the same monotone. It doesn't help that the audio for the film makes it seem as though the audio and video were 2 separate recordings that someone fully spliced together. But I did learn that more than 80% of the film's audio had to be redone and replaced, so that would explain it. The revenge element is the worst part. If there was a list of things not to do in a horror film, or any film, this film would have ticked them all off. And at number 1 is Night. A young girl is kidnapped by a strange man who forces her to be the star of his sick and twisted live stream. Absolutely, positively god-awful. This film is trying to be a fake snuff film, but it's the worst one I've ever seen. It makes some of the same dumb decisions a found footage film does, which is having footage being recorded that in reality would never be recorded, so it makes what is there idiotic. The acting is terrible, with the worst acting coming from the victim. She gets punched and doesn't react, slapped, doesn't react, cut and stabbed and still doesn't act fazed. I can tell you, I've had a couple of those things happen to me and it fucking hurts. You'd have a reaction besides just sitting there unbothered. Everything looks fake. When he kicks her, you can see he's not kicking her. When he cuts her, you can see fake blood is on the knife and he's just painting it on her skin. He stabs her in a place where there is bone and wiggled the handle around and still she doesn't react. He is meant to smack her head into a wall, but you can see her head never touches it. The dialogue is atrocious, and when the 2 characters speak, it's absolutely stupid what they say to each other. It was the longest hour of my life, not to mention the position of the camera was horrible. You see more of the door than of the person, and the guy, who I think is the director, is in front of the camera the entire time, making it impossible to really see anything. And there you have my top 10 worst movies of 2019. Like I said, lots of horror films on this list. Please comment down below and tell me if you have heard or seen any of the films on today's list. I know a couple of these are more under the radar films, so I would love to hear what you guys think. That's all for today's video. Thank you as always to my incredible patrons who I promise to be providing with content this year. Thank you to everyone who watches this video, and until next time, bye guys!